Welcome to Columbus Chamber of Commerce's CEO Insight Series. My name is Kelly Perlman. I'm a partner at Plante Moran and a long-standing partner of the CEO Insight Series. Plante Moran is a full-service CPA and business advisory firm. Locally, we're providing assurance, tax, wealth management, several other consulting services. As we prepare for continued growth, we focus on taking care of our clients, taking care of our staff, and making our community better. Today, we're thrilled to welcome Laura Hagan, CEO of Columbus Metropolitan Library, to our stage here at Dawson. As a reminder, we'll pick 10 random registrants from today's program to present Crimson Cup coffee and tea gift cards and coffee. Thank you to Greg Huber and his team at Crimson Cup for the generous gift. Be sure to stick around for closing comments from Pat Cornelius this morning, as he will announce today's winners. I'd now like to welcome Jennifer Griffith, Regional President with First Merchants Bank, to introduce Laura Hagan.
Thanks, Kelly. Good morning, everybody. How you doing?
Good morning.
Fantastic. How many here have a library card? Libby? Belong to a book club. The credit officer for the Ohio region is from Canada, and she recently moved down to America a couple of years ago. She asked me if I could get her into a book club that focused on Canadian authors. That felt like a high push, but I'm reading my first book written by a Canadian author. I need to flip ahead to my page. Sorry about that. Over the years, First Merchants has had the incredible honor of sponsoring mornings like this, where we come together and we have great conversations with great leaders. They really are inspiring, and they kind of set the stage for my team as we share conversations in the morning, and then we get to take it back to the office and talk to our friends a little bit about what we've done and what we've learned and where we've grown together. That's why we keep coming back quarter after quarter after quarter after quarter. Someone asked me this morning how long we'd been doing it. It's much too long, but I love it. Small business is the heart of what we do, and it's about 80% of the business that we write in the Ohio market for First Merchants. And so we're grateful to be continued to be asked back. And Derek, thank you very much for you and your team. Lauren became the CEO of the Columbus Metropolitan Library in October of 2024. CML has 24 locations with more than 850 employees and an annual budget of $120 million. Did you know that? That's crazy. Prior to becoming CEO, Lauren served as the library's chief financial officer when she joined the organization in 2018. In that role, she led several departments, including the finance, the information technology, capital planning, and project management. In addition, Lauren managed several key library initiatives, the planning and construction of 11 library branch projects, the issuance of $40 million of public debt. In 2023, she oversaw financial planning, internal communications, compliance, and ballot process efforts for the successful passage of CML's continuing levy. Prior to joining CML, Lauren spent nearly a decade at Loyola University Chicago in various leadership and financial positions, but most recently as Senior Associate Vice President of Finance and Controller. She channels her passion about issues affecting women and families as a community leader, serving as board chair for the Affordable Housing Trust. It's an affordable housing lender and investor. In 2020, Lauren was named the Columbus Business First's 40 Under 40 class, and we get the pleasure to spend the morning with Lauren. Please welcome Colleen and Lauren to the stage.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Let's go back to the beginning. You are a Central Ohio girl.
I am.
So tell me a little bit about, were you interested in libraries as a kid? Were you interested in numbers as a kid? Tell me about your time in Hilliard.
Well, so I was actually very interested in being a pediatrician as a kid. I was interested in libraries. In fact, I was a regular customer at our Hilliard branch that was 3 buildings ago, the one near the West Pool. We were talking about that earlier. And I eventually navigated away from medicine. I wasn't very good at my science classes in high school. I got an A-.
Oh, could you leave Seriously.
And then I thought about being a journalist. I actually got into OU's journalism school. So I started college there, but ended up transferring to Loyola. And I transferred in as a nursing major, but the summer before I started, I volunteered at a hospital in Naperville, Illinois, where I was living at the time, and realized that probably wasn't a good role for me either. I had gravitated toward that because my mom is one of 7, and she has 5 sisters, and all of them except her are nurses, and my grandmother was a nurse. So I thought maybe it would be a natural fit. At the same time, I was taking an accounting course at a community college, and it just clicked for me. So I ended up doing accounting as my major, and that's how I started my career, was in public accounting.
And I always thought numbers are hard. I hate numbers, so good for you.
I love them. I love a spreadsheet.
You're all business people. I just, and you're not supposed to say that if children are in the room, because you make them afraid of numbers.
My children love math. It's their favorite subject. So
both of my kids were good at math. And Norwich was great at teaching math.
Yes,
and
they
teaching, taking you to the next level. I know you all care about this. But so tell me about Loyola, because when you go to a religious-based college, it's different.
It is.
So tell me what it was like.
So Loyola is a Jesuit university, and I was raised Catholic. I went to St. Brendan in Hilliard. But there's a focus on really educating the whole person and about being focused on service and mission. And I was really drawn to that. In fact, so I had a public accounting career, and then I was able to get a position at Loyola in the finance department. And what I really liked about that role was that I was able to use my skills in finance for something that felt like there was a greater purpose. Those skills in finance and accounting are transferable to all industries, really. But I really was connected to being able to do work that's more mission focused. And I loved Loyola. It's a beautiful campus right on Lake Michigan. The focus of the education isn't just about accounting or business. There's more to it in terms of just that broader exposure to a variety of different topics, and just really being centered around a common purpose and mission.
And Jesuit, I'm also Catholic, raised Catholic, and St. Brendan's.
Yes.
The Jesuits aren't the branch of the Catholic Church that think they know everything.
That's correct. I say it's
talk about
it's
them
Catholic.
for a while.
It's Catholic light.
Yeah, it's Catholic light.
It's Catholic light.
My dad used to say cafeteria Catholic. You can choose what you want.
Yes. So I think it suits the college environment quite well. So,
yeah. Especially when you're at the age you are at college. So you stayed at Loyola for a while, again doing finance. What is it about the nonprofit world that draws you?
I just think there's so much you can connect the work behind the scenes to a greater impact. So at Loyola, I was able to work on a lot of different projects where I could see the impact for the students. So for example, the first role I was in was a financial analyst, and I was responsible for the capital budget. And Loyola was investing $350 million into new buildings and facilities. And so to be able to see that all come to life and see students be able to experience those investments made the work more meaningful.
Look at you making finance sound fun.
It is. It is.
Yeah, it's fun. So how did you end up back home? Because you were born and raised in Hilliard.
Yes. So at the time when the library was looking for a new chief financial officer, a colleague of mine that I worked with at Loyola, he had been recruited to work at Ohio State by Cindy Hilsheimer, and Cindy Hilsheimer was on the board of the library. And Steve knew that I was from Central Ohio and that I would consider moving back. So he had recommended me for the position, and I was fortunate enough to be selected for it and was excited to move back and relocate here. At the time, my youngest son was 6 months old, and my oldest was 3. And Columbus is just a really great place to raise a family. And it's been exciting to see how different it is from when I moved when I was in high school.
Yeah, we were talking about how Hilliard has changed so much over the last decade, really, more of a trying to make itself, Dublin light, really.
Yes.
So you moved back to Hilliard.
I did move back to Hilliard. It's very different. I was on the east side, inside 270, and now I'm in the far west side of Hilliard.
Yeah.
I really like it there.
So they mentioned the size of the library. I think people are stunned when they see how this library system has grown. Mm-hmm. And so talk about just how mammoth this undertaking was. You're not running an institution that has a building. You are running an institution that has almost 900 employees and buildings scattered throughout the region. Mm-hmm. This was a big undertaking.
Yes, it's a really complex organization. So 24 locations covering most of Franklin County. And we're integrated in terms of how we share materials. A lot of our employees work at different locations through the course of their career. We're sharing a lot of different resources, books, of course, but also there's a lot of things that happen in our libraries because libraries are the center of communities. So we have courses for people that are learning to speak English. We have school help centers for kids after school to work with volunteers and with our staff for working on their homework or other school needs they have. We have Reading Buddies programs that are really focused on literacy skills and helping kids be prepared to read and be able to pass the third grade reading guarantee, which sets you up for success long-term in life. There's just so many things that happen in the library, and we are able to deliver a lot of that through partnerships as well. We partner with a lot of organizations here locally that are able to come in and use the space that we've invested in significantly to deliver the services that they need to deliver and for the community and are aligned with their mission.
In a lot of ways, libraries have become, when I was a kid, you thought the model of a library was you go in there and you get a book and then you leave. They have become social service organizations almost, in that they provide community space, but also community support. Mm-hmm. What is it, do you think, that changed our focus on libraries and what their true mission is?
Well, I think the mission has evolved as community needs have changed, and people really trust the library. They are comfortable in the spaces, and so I think people feel comfortable to come to the library to navigate all of the resource needs they have. So if you think about a traditional librarian, maybe when we were young, people viewed that as, okay, I am interested in this genre of book. Can you help me find a new book that I can read? And now that's still the case. Librarians will, of course, help you find a book that you might be interested in. But librarians also help navigate questions like, how can I access a benefit? How do I apply for a new job? How can I use this computer, this technology? So it's all information and resource needs, but it's just that as technology advances, as our community needs change, there's just a lot of need in the community, and people gravitate toward the library as a trusted place. And we're able to deliver on many of those needs, not because our staff from a social services perspective are, social workers or the experts in that space, but because of those partnerships where organizations can come in and help people navigate the different challenges that they have. And also, it's just a space that people, I think, feel comfortable in, and we also offer a lot of programs and services. So, for example, this summer, I spent the day at our Northern Lights branch, and in the summer, we partner with Children's Hunger Alliance, and so we are able to serve lunch and dinner at the branch, and there are families that spend the entire day. A mom with her kids, 3 kids, was there all day. They participated in 2 summer reading challenge programs. They ate lunch, they ate dinner, they did reading buddies. We made origami, we played games, we did an art and craft. So it's a place that people feel like they can stay and be treated with care and compassion and have access and respect. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the branch in Hilliard is really remarkable too. They're beautiful buildings. And the ability for the libraries to communicate with each other also has changed everything. I mean, computers are amazing.
They are.
But there is a communication system. And I don't know if people realize the depth of research that you can get a librarian to do for you.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm telling
people don't realize.
You call that research desk and you say, I have a problem.
Yes.
And this is from my legal life as well as my news life. And they will spend a lot of time and find the answer for you. They're remarkable researchers, aren't they?
They are. They're incredible. I was up in our local history and genealogy department last week. That's on the 3rd floor at Main Library downtown. And the staff there specialize in local history and genealogy research. So if you're interested in any of those topics, you can go downtown and they will help you get started on something like genealogy research, for example. We own all of the digital archives for the Dispatch. We still have microfilm. So oftentimes when kids come in for a visit, one of the things that the team does is have them find an article from their birth date on the microfilm. So that's starting to get more difficult, right? As there's less and less microfilm, but there's still things being put on microfilm even in the late 2000s.
Okay, so I have to ask you some political questions.
Okay. I was anticipating that.
Yeah, I bet. So let's talk first of all about funding challenges, because as we have seen, libraries have been labeled as woke.
Yes.
Libraries have been accused of catering to the liberal agenda. How does that affect your day-to-day job?
Fortunately, at CML, it doesn't affect my day-to-day job very much. I mean, it certainly affected my job over the summer as we were navigating the state budget, because there is a provision that was originally included in the budget that Governor DeWine vetoed, which would have required public libraries to place certain types of material out of the view of people under the age of 18. So from a perspective of a public library, it's a censorship provision. And I think one of the challenges is that a lot of the people that seem to be focused on this idea of libraries being woke, or that there is inappropriate material in a children's space, I would say probably haven't been in a library very recently, because I'd
say they haven't been there a lot.
Right. Yes. So I think it unfortunately just becomes something to catch folks' attention. So we're really grateful to Governor DeWine for vetoing that. There's still a possibility that the legislature may try to override it. I haven't heard much discussion of that more recently, but they have until the end of the legislative session, which is the end of next year.
But the reality is there was a majority of people who are at the State House, who are representing the 88 counties in Ohio, who passed that legislation. You have to be concerned about it. Do the library systems in Ohio lobby? Do you have lobbyists who kind of go down there and say, wait a minute, this isn't how it works?
Yes, we do. So most libraries in the state of Ohio are members of the Ohio Library Council, and they serve as our primary advocates at the State House. And then we do some work to lobby and make a case. Well, in fact, Derek was a lobbyist for the libraries prior to this role he's in now. But it's something we have to stay on top of. I mean, prior to this legislative session, there was a similar bill introduced that never really got anywhere, but I certainly expect it to continue. And we will have to figure out how to navigate that and educate the legislature, and hopefully it won't move forward. There's been surveys done and things that over 70% of people do not agree with censorship. And it's about making materials and resources available to people to make their own decision about what they want to read and what their families should read. And that's really what a public library is about. We don't fill in the role of a parent. So, and we also don't buy every book. We buy books that people want to read and check out. We have a team of librarians who are highly trained, and they know how to select materials that the public wants to read.
Reading habits have changed, though. I admit I used to have stacks and stacks of books around the house that my husband got sick of. I do read at least a book a week.
Oh, wow.
And so when I switched to a Kindle, it's so convenient to download. And so I find, and at first I said, I don't want one of those. I like holding it. I like turning the page. I like the book. Now I'm addicted to the Kindle. How has that changed the library, this trend to make everything electronic, and I don't have to go anywhere. I'm in my house and I can download a book.
Well, it certainly has changed how we approach the allocation of our budget for collections. So last year was actually the first year at Columbus Metropolitan Library where we saw digital circ exceed the circulation for circulation. It's so the number of times the book is checked out exceeded that of a physical book. And so that's something we're thinking about often. We're doing a lot of assessment of data and of demand and where people are placing holds. The other thing that if you use the library to check out digital content, so ebooks or e-audiobooks, you'll notice that the wait is a lot longer through the public library. And that's because the materials are a lot more expensive, and the way that publishers sell those books to libraries is really complex in terms of how they do that. And they've made a lot of changes to make it even more expensive. So for example, in the past, we used to be able to purchase one copy of a book and then it would have a indefinite license, but only one person can check it out at a time. It's hard to kind of think of that as like, well, if you have it, shouldn't everyone be able to check it out? Well, no, they treat it like a physical book in that way. Now, oftentimes it's you can buy this, and maybe the book that we would buy as a physical copy would be $25, but it's $100 for it digitally.
Really?
And you can only circulate it 50 times. And then you have to buy another copy.
I would not have thought that. So they make you repurchase it. So for them, you think of the physical books being the more expensive pathway, but it's not then.
The digital content is much more expensive.
So what are you seeing in checkout trends? I mean, do most people come in looking for the bestsellers? I mean, is that what you're circulating most often? Fiction?
Yes.
And bestsellers?
Fiction is definitely circulates the most. Our collection leans more toward a popular collection, so things that people are talking about and wanting to check out. We try to have copies for every 3 holds, we like to have 1 copy. So the things that people really want to check out, that's what we have in the collection. And we also share books and resources across the county. So there are 7 independent library districts in Franklin County. CML covers most of the county, but Worthington, Westerville, Upper Arlington, Bexley, the southwest part of town, those all are their own independent libraries, but we all share our resources, our books, also our digital content, so that customers around the county can get access to the materials they want. And the reason we do that is because we all receive funding from the state.
Yeah. So we think of the library as being this kind of a monolith. I mean, it's a big organization. So doing the financing for an organization that size is different than managing the people for an organization that size. So what was it like for you going from, the budgeting and the money and the finance part of this massive organization to suddenly being in charge of the people?
Yeah, it's been an interesting transition. Fortunately, as part of the role that I held as the CFO, I did have responsibility for other areas of the library and the operations and things like risk. So a lot of things related to people and human resources were things that I was directly involved in. So that really set me up, I think, in a great position to move into the CEO position. But it's certainly a very different role. And I have shared when people have asked sort of what's surprised me the most about it is quite honestly how much I've liked it. I really enjoyed the role of the CFO. I really do enjoy finance. I enjoy the operations of the organization. But this is a really exciting time to be leading the library. It's, Pat Lazinski set us up for great success, and I'm really excited to continue that and build upon that. We live in a great city where a lot of investment is happening, and the libraries here are incredibly well used and supported by the community. And it's just been a lot of fun to explore
so
this road.
sorry.
That's okay.
Forgot to turn it off. Don't you hate people? Seriously. I usually have my watch on and silence everything, and I forgot my watch too. This is early in the morning.
It is very early in the morning.
So sorry. If that was somebody in the audience, we would all look at you like, what a jerk.
You can get away with it.
So you're public facing now too.
Yes.
So you suddenly become the face of the library. So what's been that challenge, dealing with people?
Yeah, that's been interesting. Yeah. So for example, the budget conversation, the other thing that happened through the state budget was a change in the funding model for public libraries. And that's actually fairly concerning for us because it historically has been a line item that is a percentage of the general revenue fund. It's been in law in Ohio Revised Code. So when they start the budget process, libraries already have an amount of funding, and it's been shifted to a line item appropriation. So that means it can very easily be drastically reduced or eliminated. So that's something we're thinking about at CML. That's 20% of our budget. So going into this role, that was a surprise to all of the libraries. And so I had to do a lot of advocacy at the State House. I testified twice to the Senate about that. So that was an interesting experience that I don't think I anticipated going into the role. And then we did have just recently some national news coverage on a really uplifting, fun story about a customer that we had who passed away in July, but had a handwritten list of all the books that he had read since 1962 and checked out most of them from the library. And I think it's been really fascinating to see how that story has resonated. So I never anticipated being on the national news in this role.
So when you go before the Senate, what's your pitch? I mean, what is it? What do you feel like is your responsibility as this spokesperson for a library system? What was your pitch to senators trying to convince them not to do what their plan was?
So I initially testified to the Education Committee. So really focused that testimony on the work that we do at the library to support literacy and how, for example, our story times aren't just a staff member reading a book. They're very intentionally designed to teach children early literacy skills. So things like rhyming and letter recognition. But we weave in things like singing and dancing so that it is a fun, enjoyable experience, because that's how kids connect to reading and have fun with it and then want to stick with it and continue to read. So it's making sure that the legislature understands really what's happening in libraries and making sure that members of the legislature know that this is a really important investment and that the impact public libraries have on the community is tremendous. So that's the pitch.
How do you connect with area schools? I mean, you're in a lot of different school districts.
Yes.
So do you find some more challenging than others, or what is your path to connecting with the school system?
Sure. So we serve 10 school districts, and at each of our locations, the youth services managers that we have there connect with the schools that are nearby. Of course, I have connections and relationships with superintendents, and we do a lot of different outreach and services to different school districts. So for example, with Columbus City Schools, we do book delivery and are partnered there. So we deliver brand new books to classrooms to get kids excited about reading. We also, in Hilliard, for example, are very connected to all of the elementary school buildings there, and last year hosted each school at the branch for a literacy night. This year, we're partnering with Columbus City Schools to have every second grade class have a field trip to Main Library, so that it's kind of part of that core memory as being a student that this year we went to the zoo, this year we're going to the library, and that becomes part of the just traditional path at Columbus City Schools. And I credit the youth services manager at Main Library for really championing that and making it happen through her relationships with the school district.
I have a good friend who's a retired teacher who spent her entire career at Columbus City Schools, and she also trained teachers. And she said what surprised her most when she first started out many years ago was the number of children who started at Columbus City Schools who hadn't seen a book, who didn't understand the concept of holding it up, that a story is told, that you turn a page. And we hear, I know the governor has put an emphasis on early literacy. How are you tackling that problem? Because the reality is it's different from neighborhood to neighborhood, and there are poverty implications when it comes to how families approach literacy.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And so there are some programs that we have at the library to help kids have an experience before they start kindergarten. So they're ready for kindergarten classes and the story times. And we really try to get families to come into our locations and experience the reading and books. And at our driving park branch, the staff shared with me that they have to tell kids that you can use that library card to check out a book and take it home with you. And I think, we're all familiar with that as a concept, but a lot of kids aren't. So it's just one of those things that we work with kids. We make the experience fun too. So there's a lot of fun programs happening to draw people in. And then we're able to introduce them to reading and to books and make that something that becomes just part of what they do.
Yeah, that Dolly Parton program,
yes,
I think is amazing. And Ohio is one of the few states that now, when you have a baby at the hospital, they sign you up at the hospital.
Yes, they do.
Which I think you must love programs like that.
Yeah, they're amazing because that program is getting books into the hands of all families. And it's really exposure to reading that's really important for kids to be able then to continue to grow and develop. Reading and being able to read is a skill that everyone needs to have.
So you also are involved in the nonprofit world in other ways. You're involved with a nonprofit doing with housing for low income. So how is it? How does that connect to the job that you do? And tell us about that project.
Yes, so I'm on the board of the Affordable Housing Trust, and I also just recently joined the Future 85 board. Mario is here today. That's focused on early literacy, so there's a great connection there. But Affordable Housing Trust, the way I ended up involved with that organization is my dad worked in affordable housing development, so it's always something I was interested in. And there's a lot of connection to the work that we do in the library because housing is it's just a critical resource that everyone needs. And if you don't have stable housing, then you have a lot of other negative impacts on your life. And so we see a lot of people at the library who are experiencing homelessness, and the library is a place that they can go and spend the day and have access to technology and books and resources. They also can just be, and that's okay and be respected. So it's just something that is so important in our community, that we're making investments in housing and that housing is available to everyone. And so it's just an organization that I ended up becoming involved in and have really excited about the work that's being done there.
You do seem young, and I say that because you're in elementary school at the same time my kids were. So you're very young. But you're a young leader. You were 40 under 40. You were part of that. How does your age either enhance or maybe create issues for you? Because people say, well, she's 40 years old.
I think earlier in my career, as I was progressing and being promoted in positions, my age was more of a challenge, and the questioning of, how am I able to do that particular role? I would say it hasn't, people aren't saying anything to me about it now. So I don't know, maybe it is an issue, but it hasn't seemed to be a challenge for me in that regard. I do think it enhances the way that I look at things and how I approach the work and how I can connect with our team too. And certainly I think people were excited that I was a woman being selected for the role of the CEO at the library. It's actually an industry or field that is predominantly women. but most of the leaders of public libraries have historically been men. So I think that was something that is also an enhancement that I'm a woman. I think the fact that I have young children brings another perspective that I think is an impact that I can make relative to the work that we're doing at the library, and being able to look at it through the lens of a parent of young kids.
So it also must make you more empathetic to people having childcare issues who are employees of the library.
Yes.
Because I'm in an industry. I have a female news director now, but she's the first one, and I've been doing this for 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the first time I've ever had a woman as the news director, and she has a son. So, when my kids were little, there was no understanding of the needs of a working mother. There just wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
That's your problem. Deal with it. So how has that made you a different kind of boss, do you think?
Well, I think one of the things I've been most proud of in my work at the library, and this was when I was the chief financial officer, soon after I joined the library, I recognized that we didn't have a paid parental leave policy, and it was something that had just been implemented at Loyola. And so I approached Pat Lisinski, who was the CEO at the time, and asked him about that. And we have good paid time off, but he didn't have a perspective that I had. And I explained to him that, as an example, that if I wanted to have another child, that I would need to have worked at the library for 3 years and take very little PTO if I wanted to have time off with my child and still be paid. And as working adults, we need to be paid to be able to take time off with our kids. So he was very receptive to that once I was able to put it into perspective for him. I didn't have any more children, so it wasn't a leave benefit that was going to directly benefit me. But I recognize that when you move into positions like the one I was in, that it's a responsibility that we have to really make sure that we're supporting other people that are going to have experiences that we had, and using that influence in a way that moves us forward and makes the organization an even better one to work for. And then we, after that, added a paid caregiver leave so that for families that are caring for a sick relative or a child, that they have the ability to take time off to do that. And so those type of things have been really meaningful, and I've been really proud to have brought those forward.
And as the former CFO, what's the price tag on programs like that when you have as many employees as you do? And do you find, was there gratitude from employees? I imagine, especially young women.
Yes.
That, or people in the sandwich generation who, like me, had a parent with Alzheimer's. It's difficult, and it's financially draining.
It absolutely is. Honestly, it's really not that costly, those benefits. I think it's actually more costly when you turn over employees and turn them over frequently. And I think by investing in employees that way and being caring and empathetic and recognizing that we all have lives that's outside of work and face a lot of challenges that oftentimes we have no idea that people are facing, that those employees give back to the organization in ways that are enhancements and are a benefit that offset any sort of cost that goes along with this.
So describe your management style and how you connect with all of these employees, because you've got a lot of them and they're all over the place.
Yes.
I think it's harder to manage people when they're physically disconnected from each other.
Yeah, so of course, I don't directly manage all of those people, but we have a really tremendous team of people at the library, and we make a lot of investments in supporting and training our managers so that they can manage the teams that they're responsible for across the system. My management style is one that I think it's really important that we build trust amongst the team, that people can trust me, that I can trust them. I think the way that I've been able to do that most effectively is by being as transparent as I can, by sharing information with people, and by respecting the expertise that they bring and being able to talk through issues and ideas, and recognizing that I don't have all of the answers, I never will, and that I have a really talented team that helps us navigate and make the best decisions for the library and for the community. And so that's how I've approached it. I think one of the things I've done to connect with all of our employees, and this was some good advice that I got from Doug Ullman from Pelotonia when I was first starting out in the role, was that I should try in some way to connect with every employee directly in my first year as a CEO. So what I landed on was that I send a handwritten note to every employee on their service anniversary. And so that's actually been a really fun thing to do. I just do them in batches every month, and we'll be watching some terrible show on Netflix or something, and write them. But I've learned things about employees that I didn't know. We have so many long tenured employees. I just wrote a note to an employee who works at the New Albany branch who's been at the library for 41 years. And I'm always stunned by the length of service that people have. The other thing that I do is every couple weeks I send out what I call a bright spot. So a fun story about something really great that's happened at the library, and share that with all of our employees as a way to maintain focus on the positive things, because the work is hard. We're open to everyone. So that means that every day there are lots of people coming through our doors, and sometimes people are facing challenges, and that might lead to interactions that aren't the most positive. And so I try to find a way to at least highlight things that are really great. So yesterday I shared a story about one of our young customers. I think he was 11. He and his friend had a lemonade stand up in New Albany, and they raised $91, and they decided to use that money to buy school supplies for our backpack drive. So,
wow.
So it's sharing things like that.
Sure, New Albany, $91.
$5 for each lemonade.
A lemonade. And that was only 3 glasses.
I'd have to be out there for a week in Hilliard.
Yeah. There was a kid at the end of our street in Hilliard selling lemonade. And they had quite a stack. I stopped to buy some, and I hate lemonade, but I stopped to buy some. And I said, let me see if I have the cash. And he actually said this, we have Venmo. I thought, okay, times are changing.
They sure have. He's got Venmo.
Selling lemonade with a Venmo. I said, do you have Cash App?
That's great.
Yeah. So, libraries we think of as an old woman up at the top saying, so what's your marketing like? I mean, how do you have all these great programs and lunch programs and after school networking and job support and research. So what do you do to get the message out to people about the programs at the libraries? How challenging and how expensive is it?
It's really challenging to do that for the reason that you described, in terms of all of the different programs and services that we offer. And a lot of it ends up being through word of mouth. But I think even as I talk to people, they're like, oh, we didn't realize you do that. We didn't realize that kids can get snack after school at the branches, things like that. So we do our best. We have a really fantastic social media person, Grace and Kelly's, and outstanding. And so that's been a way that we've really gotten the word out on a lot of programs. We have tremendous support from local news media. So we get a lot of good coverage locally about things that are happening in the library. So for example, I think all of the stations let folks know that our school help centers opened last week. So that's something that is really important and helps us get the word out. So it's just a variety of different ways, but we have a really great marketing team. So that's where the cost comes from. But generally speaking, we don't do a lot of paid media.
Well, we partnered with you for the summer reading program. Yes. I know, because it's been, it's a great program. So a lot of it has to be through social media and what you can control. Mm-hmm. But I think you've touched on some employee jobs, like you mentioned, some youth services people and social media people. I mean, it's not the traditional way that libraries were formed, where there's a librarian who's there who can explain the Dewey Decimal System to you. They don't use that anymore either, do they?
They do. It's still there, yeah.
Yeah.
No more card catalogs, really. Yeah. There's some up in local history and genealogy, but
but the people, I mean, I think people are surprised at the numbers of different kinds of positions that you have at a library, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really complex organization to run 24 buildings, to serve over 5 million people a year. That's how many people come through our doors, to deliver different programs, to deliver a book festival. It takes a lot of people and a lot of different expertise. So in our branches, we have librarians, of course, but we also have people that are focused specifically on customer service. So these are people that can still help you find a book or help you reserve a book, help you on the computer. But the librarian is going to be the person that will ask and be able to support you through more technical questions. And it's not a place where we're shushing people anymore. I mean, we had at Main Library earlier this year an exhibit with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, with pinball machines, and we even had the lead guitarist from Metallica come and speak about his book that he has. It's his guitar collection. So it's just not that traditional library anymore because of all the different resources that we share with the community.
And I know the Columbus Metropolitan Library itself gets awards for being such an amazing library system. How do you compare to the other library systems in the major cities in Ohio? And do you connect with them? I mean, do you lobby together? I mean, how? What's the comparison?
So we are most similar in size to Cincinnati Public Library and Cuyahoga County Public Library, and we do all collaborate. So I have a monthly meeting with my contemporaries at all the metro libraries. So Cleveland, Cincinnati, Cuyahoga, Toledo, Dayton, and we all share resources. We share ideas. We talk a lot about our efforts around advocacy and lobbying to support libraries. Ohio has the best libraries in the country, and people use them. They're the most used libraries across the country. That's also through how many books people check out, how frequently they go to the library, and that's because there's intentional investment in public libraries here, and recognition that a library is really important to communities as a resource. But also, I mean, do you want to live in a place that doesn't have a strong library, nice parks, strong schools? And I think it's just an important thing for people to keep in mind and understand that, you know, as residents of Ohio, you also can have a library card at every library in the state because of the funding that we receive. And that's really unique.
We did do a lot of stories in the past budget cycle, especially though, about the pressures on library systems coming out of the State House. It's a different time politically, and culturally and socially. Things are becoming, I hate to use the word repressed, but moving toward repression. You know, what would you like to say? What's the role of the public in all of this and what you are dealing with and what might be coming out of the State House? Because I think after next year, it could be even more of a challenge for libraries. Oh,
I agree. I think in the next budget cycle, it's going to be even more challenging. Those are things that we're thinking deeply about already, because we don't want to reduce services to the community. And so it's important next step. But to kind of speak to all of you about the role that you can play in supporting our work is use the library, check out books, share with other people about resources that are available to you and your neighbors and your family. And also reach out to your legislators and tell them how important a public library is to the community and to economic development. I mean, we've made a lot of investments in the buildings across Columbus, and they are a fixture and a central point of pride. And it's an important investment. And people, I think we've played a role in people's interest in coming to Columbus.
I think so too. Julianne Hova of CEO Magazine gets to ask the final question for us today. Make it a good one, Julianne.
Good morning, everybody. Lauren, you touched a little bit about the topic I wanted to ask you about, which is facilities. Columbus Metropolitan Library has made significant investments in the last few years in rebuilding branches and upgrading facilities. Why is that important to the library system and to the customers you serve and the community as a whole?
I think making investments in facilities, and also obviously we've made investments in the architecture of the buildings to make them unique in every community. It's so that people can see how important it is that there's an investment in their community and their neighborhood. And it also is a way that people are drawn to the library and want to be in the space and want to engage with their neighbors and their families in those spaces. It's just, I think, been a really important investment that we've made, and we've seen how much more people engage with our buildings and our services. And we have more visits now than we had in 2019. And I think it's in part because of the investments that we have made in our facilities.
Well, we thank you for investing some time with us today. You're doing a great job. The library really is remarkable. So let's thank her for her time this morning.
Thank you.
All right, seemed a little sensitive earlier. Thank you, Colleen. Thank you, Warren. I'm Bill Nolan. I'm a partner and employment lawyer at Barnes & Thornburg. We're a Midwestern-based national business law firm located here on the 33rd floor of the Huntington Center. Been our pleasure to be a lead sponsor along with First Merchants and Plant Moran for a number of years of this program. I don't know how many, and I always say, each CEO just convey sort of the energy and the collaborative nature and what Central Ohio does in a special way. And this is no exception today. I'm actually the son of a public librarian, probably more like it's been a few years, so probably more like the stereotypical one Colleen described. So I was interested to hear this. And it is, it's amazing everything they do. And I think most of us here are probably in the for-profit business sector, and it's easy to take for granted some of the things you're doing and the scope of it. And I loved at the beginning the care, compassion, and respect for so many people in our community that makes what we do possible, and all these things are happening. So just want to thank Lauren one more time. And I think you learned everything you need to know about her. You learned when she said she does 900 handwritten notes to employees every year. That's pretty awesome. Said it very casually too, like not a big deal. Do I have coffee winners in here? Here we are. All right. So yes, so it's also my pleasure to announce the winners of Crimson Cup Coffee. Thanks to Greg Ubert, who is here somewhere here today, and Crimson Cup for providing these. Looks like a pretty manageable group of names. So here they are. And you can pick up your prize on the way out at the registration desk. Jackson Finfrock, Ayad Hassan, Zach Abraham, Andrew Hepler, Leah Santa Lucia, Quinn Crandall, Jessica Henderson, Connor Gerberry, Bob Brewster, and last, my colleague didn't know you're eligible, Samantha DeRoos. So please stop and it's not fixed, but yeah, please stop, pick us up on the way out. Thanks for coming. Be sure to go to the Chamber of Commerce website. The Chamber has a just tremendous array of events and activities that different things fit different businesses. So take a look at those, and hope to see you next quarter and travel safely.